It all starts with a thought. You didn't ask for it. You never wanted it, but it's here. And now the game has changed. Because that thought is not your friend. It's not telling you how strong you are or reminding you that you always find a way. No, it's informing you that you're finished. Tired. Weak. Chanting that you'll get 'em tomorrow, kid. Softly at first. Then a little louder and a little louder until the message becomes unmistakable. And in this moment, it's not your legs that become vulnerable. It's not your lungs. This situation transcends the physical. You are in the ring with your mind. This is when the gloves come off. It's fight or flight, and in your gut, you know it's nothing more than a front, intimidation. Life's way of separating the average from the exceptional, but this is not about knowing the truth. It's about having the courage to stand up to it. Because that voice is continuously showing you your distress, your pain, your fatigue. It's pointing to an empty well, telling you that you have nothing left, and perhaps in a different universe you'd listen. But in this world, the well always goes deeper. There is always more to give. That moment when you begin to hurt, the second that voice pops into your head, you have only given a fraction of your maximum effort. When you meet resistance, your limits haven't even been tested. Obstacles do not make the destination any more or less real. They simply call for an adjustment. So adjust. See, time stops when you stop. Goals stop when you stop. Dreams stop when you stop. And in a world with infinite possibility, there's simply no reason to relinquish that control. So let your forward progress silence the dissenting voices. Let those on the sideline talk about their empty tanks and fantasized limitation. You are not running on empty. My friend, you are simply running. There are a few things you just can't learn from a textbook, that you have to live through, to see, to be fully entrenched in. Because here is a simple truth. This world is a tough place. Getting what you want, making the most of the time you have, requires that you put yourself in the position to succeed. It means you see a finish line before one exists. Look, no one's ever gonna call you and tell you how incredible your idea is. You can't build a business on potential or win a championship on promise. Results are binary. You either accomplished something or you simply did not. Right? That's it. That's what people see, the result. So that means every second, every step of the way from where you are right now until you cross the finish line depends on you and your thoughts. How you internalize failure, how you look at setbacks. When no one is around to pat you on the back or tell you how great you are, will you have enough self-belief to move forward? Because my friends, that's the hardest part. That's what no one talks about. Having the courage to wake up every single day of your life and know that you are building towards something incredible. You are creating a masterpiece from the ground up. And that means that when you're looking in the mirror, you believe in what's staring back at you. You see the unseen and you are willing to bring it to life. That is the foundation that you build greatness on. And it's a daily pursuit, creating milestones, designing the small wins that keep you going, that keep you moving, that get you past all those times you so desperately want to turn around, but know that for you, it simply isn't an option. That is not your reality. You have more waiting for you. And so you press on, cloaked in confidence, you move into the unknown, seeking the day the rest of the world looks up and calls you lucky. They'll look at what you built and say how fortunate you are, but they won't comprehend the 20-hour days, the focus, the ridicule for being different or obsessive or nonconformist. They won't know that self-belief trumped all of that it was everything. The word great is separate for a reason. It implies a specific set of beliefs and values. It means you saw light when most people saw darkness. It means you said yes when most people said no. You moved forward when the rest of the world turned around. Believe in your greatness. See it, live it. It is there, and you need to know that it's there. Because it will make all the difference. Your self-belief will define you. Today belongs to the architect. He sees towers before they pierce the sky, an opportunity before it transforms into the extraordinary. He knows that what he wants most cannot be given. It must be sculpted. So he builds. He builds because those skylines don't raise themselves from the earth. The extraordinary does not appear on its own. They are dreamed into existence by the architects of reality. The ones who seek not to take from the world, but to contribute to it. Today is the beginning of something new, something better, something worth remembering. And it's existed long before the present moment, waiting for your vision, your courage, your persistence to bring it to life. Too many times we fail to reach into the realm of what we know and get more of ourselves. It's okay to struggle, to be wrong, to have to rebuild 1,000 times, but the great tragedy is closing our eyes and walking by life's opportunity. Everything you need to rebuild the life you dream of is around you, your every move. If only you'd reach for it, see it before your eyes do, become the architect of change. Nothing is impossible when you are the one setting the rules, when your hand draws the guidelines. You are not at the mercy of the world, you are creating it. This is yours. And there will never be a moment like it again, so don't run from it or hope life gives you what you want. Take the pieces in front of you and construct your masterpiece. The mind is like water, necessary for survival, productivity, but can just as easily drown out that likelihood of success. And I can tell you with confidence, you've never seen your body's limitations. What you've seen are the limitations of your mind. When you're tired or uncomfortable, weak or unsure, these things start as fear, being planted in your brain and attempting to grow roots, looking to acquire the real estate that exists between your ears. It's a powerful source. It can manipulate you, your reality, anyone and everyone around you, but it only exists with your permission, and we're not always cognizant that we've opened the gate and let it in. That's the crazy part. Oh, but we do, subconsciously or not. It's the reason you haven't gone as far as you can go, pushed as hard as you possibly can, because at some point fear stood between you and what you want. At some point you started asking yourself if you've gone too far. Look, it doesn't matter if it's athletics or business or art or anything. When things become uncomfortable or hurt, fear always shows its face. It's not because, you're dragging your leg on the floor or your knee gave out. It's not because you can't go on. It's because those thoughts trickle into your mind about not being able to finish. What if I can't handle this? I don't usually go this far. Am I pushing harder than I normally do? Is this right? Is it dangerous? Is it over the top? These thoughts are the seed of destruction, a virus. But here's the remedy. There's a saying in naval special operations that when your mind is telling you you're done, when you feel maxed out, you are only at 40% capacity. You haven't scratched the surface. And value isn't obtained until, in one way or another, you're able to realize this and push the panic, the anxiety back underground. You're not stopping because you can't go on. You're stopping because of the what ifs and the worst case scenarios. You're stopping because you're preconditioned to stay within boundaries. Because that seed has grown into concerns about the world conspiring against you, but the body does not control the mind dictates what the body does. See, the thing about life is that we all have narratives. We all have stories that we believe, and here's why that's important. Everything that happens to you or around you will be molded into your narrative. If you see something as crazy or far-fetched or impossible, life will be nothing more than evidence of that belief. Pain will be a wall 10 feet high. The old saying is, seek and you shall find. What you look for is what you get. Expect greatness and the body will listen. Your world will conform. That's why believing is being. The body, it executes. Loyal to every belief. You'll always be what you decide to be. Some build, others tear down. Some take risks, others critique the risk takers. Some pursue the infinite, others settle for a life of limitation. Some make change, others complain that things are no longer the same. Some help people grow, others think that your loss is their gain. Some learn from misfortune, others become held down by it. Some turn fear into opportunity, others avoid the unknown. Some never stop learning, others think they have all the answers. Some do, others talk. Some give, others take. Some live, others wish. Some see an opportunity, others see an obligation. Some work toward the possibility of excellence, others run from the possibility of defeat. Some fall and get back up, others stay where they are so that they never have to worry about leaving their feet. Some embrace the elements, others take shelter. Some search, seek and discover, others wait to be told. Some perform, others watch. Some persist, others stop. Some make the most of every single day. And others watch those very same days go by. So which one are you? What will you create with the pieces presented to you? Not tomorrow or the next day, but right now and every second moving forward. Will you build or tear down, take the easy road or the road less traveled? When all is said and done and you've come to the end of your story, what will it say? If you were to walk to the water's edge and stare out, you'd swear there's a point where the ocean meets the sky, where these mirroring worlds coexist. Their rules, their truths, their realities exposed, condensed to nothing. It's at this very point that life is rediscovered, where possible is recreated. Never a pursuit for the faint of heart. No, because heart is what carries you through. Never a battle for the conformists, because to follow is to surrender. This pathway in the sky is reserved. Reserved for those willing to construct their own ladders and climb them to the impossible. For those who risk falling back to earth, knowing that never leaving the ground is a fate far worse. It's a journey that's not for them or him or her. It's for that little voice in your head that wonders just how far you can go. See, at the end of the day, just before you close your eyes, you'll know. You'll know whether you had anything left to give, whether you followed your heart and fought with your soul. Never has the moment been greater, never the opportunity more plentiful. This universe is yours to be transformed and manipulated, rebuilt in your image. And while some look back at life within the confines of ordinary, others look forward towards that spot where the ocean meets the sky, towards their dreams and a limitless tomorrow. One where we don't look up at the clouds, but look down at the world below. Life won't always point you in the direction you need to go. It won't hand you the tools or walk you to some finish line. But for those willing to search for something more, to seek out beyond the immediate, they will find their way past the impossibles and the unknowns. They'll discover the depths of the human spirit and the power of the human mind. For it's in the journey that life is created. It's from the clouds that potential becomes real. So find it, chase it down, impose your reality on life. The time will come when you're no longer able to step forward to breathe in the miracle that is around you. That time is not now. Let your actions reflect this truth. The view is always most beautiful from the top. I took yesterday's failure and I forged it into iron and steel. As it burned, it took on its new shape. Through the flames, an enemy became an ally. And there it was. My creation, designed to tear through the very elements from which it was conceived. I reached into the fire, I took yesterday's failure and strapped it to my arms. I took lifelong insufficiency and placed it over my chest. Doubt became my shield, fear my sword. I had been recreated, reimagined. And with the past singled out and excommunicated, there was only me, the journey, and this armor that strengthened my pursuit with every waking moment. Once fear was removed, hesitation followed quickly behind. Action is what remained, and its influence was overwhelming. I realized that the only way to weaken my current state was to bow down to this mountain towering over me, to retreat. Because with the simple act of moving forward, I had become empowered. With every step, I was redefined. I was something more. Life became not a window to peer out of, but an incredible sprint with no end or finish. I became obsessed with trying to capture and soak up everything I could. I wanted to trip, to stumble, to fall my way to more. I wanted to fail my way to greatness. My only fear was slowing down, it was missing out. And as my armor grew stronger, my legs moved faster. There simply wasn't enough time to breathe it all in. See, it's incredibly simple. When I faced my demons, it's not just that I became free of them, they lifted me up. I'd been running away from the very pieces that I needed most. This armor is a million mistakes, it's a million tragedies, it's letdowns and lessons, but because of them, my world is limitless. There is nothing that I can't get through. I've been there, I'm battle tested, and anything that stands before me will become the armor on my back as I walk over it and carry on. When you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Mark Twain. There is a perfection in solitude, in the behind the scenes. This is where steps become miles, questions become answers, armor is crafted. It's where you learn that getting what you want in the long term means going through hell right now. Proving to yourself that you can do it not once but over and over again, because the time will come when life hits hard. When it brings you to your knees, but the battle-tested stand apart. Their demons were made to be conquered. The trail before you, it strengthens the mind. It tests the heart. It lights a fire in the soul. This trail has one priority: to teach you that quitting is not circumstantial, it is a trait. You either do or you do not. And if you don't quit here, you will not quit anywhere. See, life's obstacles are relative. Sure, they're difficult, but compared to what? Who you are now or who you were yesterday? There are things we avoid our entire lives because we don't question the narratives we've written. Look, until you teach yourself that you're capable of climbing up the mountain, you will always go around it. That is why excellence is earned. Confidence is gained. When they are sleeping, you are working. When they're critiquing, you're creating. You know there's a way because there always has been. You've been down, but you got up. You've been tired, but you pushed through. Why should now be any different? Why should it ever be any different? Today is yours, tomorrow is yours, and it is impossible to stop a mind convinced of that truth. If you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, you forfeit your greatness. If you don't risk failure, you have no shot at being the one who makes a statement. If you don't risk them laughing at you, you have no shot at them clapping for you. If you don't risk trading today for a future outcome that's uncertain, you'll never know the fortune that future held. Yeah, being vulnerable, it's difficult. It's hard, it hurts, but it has to. It's the ocean that separates what you have from what you want. The mountain that stands between who you are and who you want to be. And being vulnerable, it means you stop looking at what can go wrong and you start thinking about what can go right. Because every question's a double-edged sword, right? Do you release that song? Because it could flop, but it will also kickstart your dream. Do you make that first trip to the gym? Because you'll probably look like you have no clue what you're doing, but it could also lead you to feeling better about yourself than you ever have before. Do you apply for that promotion? Because you could be let down. But it could also lead to a career transformation. Do you see the dynamic here? Every major decision comes with risk, and that's why people avoid making them. Standing out, taking the road less traveled, they shake our deeply rooted desire to fit in, right at the foundation. They conflict like fire and water. See, so much of our stress comes from a need to belong, to preserve a reputation, to be cool. You want a fun experiment? Watch how fast being cool turns into mediocrity. It's doing the things that are not cool over and over again that constitute greatness. The ones who are different, bold, out there, they change things. The ones who are okay being called irrational, okay being laughed at, okay with failing and not getting it the first time around. If you do not let yourself be vulnerable, you never experience failure on a significant level. You don't fail, you don't learn. You don't learn, you don't grow. And if that's the case, forget about the top of the mountain. Safety, comfort, a flawless reputation gets you a nice seat at the bottom looking up at greatness, at those who saw the opportunity and were willing to take a chance. So while you climb, keep your eyes on that big picture. Remember that we outgrow our worries. Through each stage of our lives, we look back and we realize that our previous priorities were misaligned. We worried about things that didn't matter, allowed our decisions to be guided by variables that were irrelevant. And that's the beauty of risk. It escalates this realization, pushes us further and further past the little things that mean less and less with each step taken. Your mistakes will not matter. Criticism from strangers will not matter. What will matter is whether you took control and did something meaningful with your life, whether you followed your heart and your instinct. And I know it's hard, I know it's uncomfortable. I can't sit here and guarantee the path will be paved out in gold, everything will go how you want, but I can promise this: you will learn, you will adapt, and move forward. I can promise that the critics and the naysayers get smaller and smaller until they fade out of the picture altogether. And most importantly, I can promise that if you don't do anything, you will not go anywhere, and that is the only way to fail. So trust yourself. Trust the process. Believe that you are extraordinary, and go make your magic. There's a very specific place I encounter almost every day, where the sidewalk ends, a crossroads exists, and anyone who approaches it is presented with a handful of options. As time's gone on, I've formed quite the relationship with this spot. You're probably wondering why. Who cares? Don't you have better things to think about than the end of a concrete slab? Well, let me ask you something. At its core, how do you define success? What is getting what you want? What does that take? Because if someone asked me, I wouldn't have to say a word. I could point to that random, arbitrary intersection and let it do all the talking for me. So let me explain. For those who know nothing about me, I am an avid runner. And almost daily I put my running shoes on, I hit the pavement, most of the time long distances, sometimes middle distance. And it's a sacred time for me to push myself, to test my will, ultimately to see if I can be better today than I was yesterday. And every time I approach the end of my workout, I inevitably arrive at this spot, which is about a mile from my doorstep. And it forces me to ask a serious question. How bad do you want to win? My situation is simple. I can continue going straight. I can stay on the paved road where eventually another path forms and leads me to my doorstep. Or I can go left, I can jump onto the beach and finish that last mile off on the sand. Certainly not a life or death decision. Both paths lead me home. But I'll tell you something, when you're tired, when you're thirsty, when you've been running in the South Florida sun in August, running in the soft sand, sucks, and it sucks just enough that you question every step. And I remember the first time I opted for the beach, right? Didn't think too much of it, but very quickly that changed. As every step sunk into the sand, as the sun glared down at me, I immediately began looking for a cop-out. Every thought revolved around the idea that I could stop, that this was stupid, it was unnecessary discomfort. Why the hell didn't I just stay on the sidewalk? But as you can imagine, time passed and I arrived home. The next time presented with the same situation, I went left and I felt the same way. But having done it before seemed to ease my mind. I put up with the physical obstacles, the mental gymnastics, and I got home. And then there was a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time, and then it became part of my routine. And a few weeks in, I realized that my thinking was completely different. And this is the important part, okay? See, now, at this point, there were no negative thoughts. There was no self-loathing. My brain wasn't creating a sob story or attempting to highlight the impracticality of my decision. No, it was just routine. It was just what happens when you approach the end of your run. It doesn't matter how far you've gone, how hard you've pushed, how tired you are. You go left. You run on the beach. That's it, period. And it's a funny thing, when you've convinced yourself there are no other options, it becomes incredibly easy to adapt. You may understand where I'm going with this little story, because the moral isn't about running or the beach or Florida summers. It's about laughing in the face of those little inconveniences life throws at you. Doing the small things that make you better, putting yourself through the struggle in the short term for the win in the long term, training your mind to become stronger. Because I'll tell you, when it's hot, when you're tired, it becomes incredibly difficult to think about the macro. Our mind focuses on the small things, the now. Why put yourself through unnecessary hell? But what we learn when we do this is that not only do we become accustomed to anything, but we want the next thing. The reward becomes bigger than the temporary struggle. It's a mutual exchange, sweat for progress, pain for momentum, for a win. Humans are incredible in what they can achieve, how they can adapt to problems and rise above any set of circumstances. And this means when you come to your crossroads, maybe it's not physical. Maybe it's completely mental. Maybe it's a decision that you're scared to make, an obstacle you've been avoiding. It means you stop taking the easy road and you run right through it. You collect your bruises and scars and come out better for it, because those small decisions matter. The meaningless runs in the sand become very meaningful. They're the roots that grow into your subconscious mind, that encourage risks, that whisper in your ear that you're better, that you're worthy of more. And if you can't train your mind to fight the small battles, the big victories will forever remain a myth, reserved for the people you see on TV, the biographies you read on the weekends, and that's not you. You're not average, so stop thinking like you are. Evolve. Start stacking your pain, your discomfort, the little inconveniences you avoid. Stack them like bricks, because in time, you'll have something very real to stand on. There's a substantial disconnect between what we envision and what we actually experience. And we make the plan, we think it's perfect, we're ready to go. Sure, I have my race plan, I'm gonna sprint the last mile. Yep, I know exactly what my career is gonna look like. Here are the steps. I'll follow this plan in the morning, this one in the afternoon. But then you're in the midst of the battle, right? And when you're in the trenches, you quickly realize that you didn't take into account a variety of factors. And funny enough, these factors are what make victory so difficult to begin with. The required patience, the persistence, the instinctual desire for routine, to know, to predict. And sure enough, that time comes. You go to sprint the last mile, but you didn't realize you'd be fighting just to keep going, let alone increase your speed. The time comes to take that next step with your business, your career. You didn't realize the market wouldn't embrace your product with open arms. The time comes to put your plan for the day into action. You didn't realize you'd be pulled in 20 different directions. See, the formula isn't as simple as we want to believe. Why? Because we attack armed with the wrong idea, just as much as life is about executing a plan. It's also about taking the unplanned and making it work. The unexpected, life's curveballs. You know, they're not entities that lurk outside the scope of your game plan. They are your game plan. The idea is to be brave, not perfect. It's to be resilient, not flawless. Confident, not complete. The best athletes don't train to be perfect. No, they train to tolerate discomfort, because guess what? If you can't adapt, you die. If you can't adjust, you lose. Life will never conform to your plan, and people don't want to hear that. They remain stubborn, unchanged, and what they're left with is resentment and the feeling that they've been slighted by life. The person who plans for the perfect race will always be outdueled by the one who comes prepared to conquer its imperfections. The one who will rein in the unexpected, not bow to it or falter in its presence, but own it. The pursuit of victory is not one from which we emerge unscathed. It's messy, it's humbling. If you can't embrace the idea of being knocked down, then get out. If you're too proud to acknowledge that your plans aren't an instruction manual, you will be defeated. There's a saying that you can't control the wind, but what you can do is adjust your sails. Yeah, be prepared, be skilled, be the best at what you do, but be flexible. Move with the elements, relish in the understanding that the obstacles will come and they will make you stronger. Strong minds win because they don't succumb to events beyond their control, and that choice is always going to be there. You didn't plan for this, but the decision presents itself. Will it be the reason you fail or the reason you succeed?